Hey everybody, Plushie here, and I've come to make an announcement since I think it's the perfect time. She's getting a banner. She has a banner actually ongoing right now on NA, and that is I officially give up on wanting a buff for Koyan Dark. I think after various circumstances last year, it is simply impossible that Lasengo decides to buff her. There's a couple of reasons behind that. First of all, to the majority of the players, she's probably fine to even decent. Yes, she has abysmal MP damage. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. She has worse MP damage than Tez and Tonalico. And both Tez and Tonalico have, like, bad, like, classes for DPSs. And I'm talking about raw MP damage, right? If you're using them in multi-core and assuming they don't receive a lot of buffs, Koyan Dark actually does less damage than those characters. The assassin and the caster, right? But there's no sugarcoating it once again. But she's still used pretty widely in multi-core because she doesn't have like any restrictions that she needs to pair with. Yes, animal trait pairs really well with her, but she doesn't really need it. She just needs another buster servant to go with her. And it's convenient in general, right? Like, she's basically trying to farm 90 plus all the time. And speaking of fast farming, she's also very popular in that space because specifically Paul Bunyan. Paul Bunyan, the bronze one, not Super Bunyan, is an animal trait servant when she's in her costume. And she is obviously one of the most widely used like fast farming AoEs in the game, and she pairs extremely well with Koyan Dark, right? So that is a second reason why people really like using her. And thirdly, her challenge quest performance is not bad, to be honest, because she has a lot of stuff in her kit. She has no survival. She has a really long cooldown for her second skill. And generally, I don't think like her party wipe buffs are that useful in challenge quests. But still, she has offensive buff removal on MP, which is really nice for reducing enemies' pressure, especially for a servant like her who has 0 survival. She also has really good card damage, for multiple reasons, because her skill 3 is a 3-turn critical damage up by 50%, which is nice already, and her MP gives her an attack up before damage and a buster down after damage. So her buster card gets boosted a lot by her MP if you follow her MP up with a buster. And she also has anti-earth, which is good anti-trait, and she has one of the best Invoke Pierce skills in the game. Once again, on skill 3, a 3-turn duration Invoke Pierce that is not tied to MP, and just can be used with cards as well, and also lasts for 3 turns instead of just 1 turn. She of course also has great synergy with Dolman and Van Gogh for crit damage, like even more crit damage, man, because she's both Chaotic Evil and Existence Outside of the Domain, right? Her ranking on @Media, which is a website that primarily focuses on farming performance, is really high, actually higher than Kokokan, which is really funny. And her ranking on like some Minturn stuff, because if you don't know, during especially Super Recollection quests, there is a ranking list for each DPS separated by AoEs and single targets, and depending on how many feats they achieved during that event, they get ranked, right? So for example, I was able to Minturn Super Recollection Tez Kalipolka, and then she would score a certain score, but if someone is able to do it with another DPS with frontline only, then they would score a higher score, for that particular fight, right? So it's kind of like a bounty thing. It's really fun, but it's a really niche community that most people don't participate in. But Koyan Dark actually scores pretty high, partially because of me, right? Because I really do sit there for like 20 fucking hours and then try to, do a min turn that is extremely unlikely to happen. So it's not that accurate in terms of gauging her challenge quest performance. Like, I'm not just saying it's me, by the way. Like, a lot of people also helped me with my script, so I was able to grind it out with the best possible RNG. But basically my point is there is a possibility to push her performance in challenge quests like really far if you have everything. Obviously not everybody's gonna have everything, but she has the potential. But her problem really is just her bad MP damage. I think everything else is fine in her kit. So that's why I always wanted an MP upgrade and nothing else. But also, it's not just because she doesn't need a buff that I feel like she would never get a buff. It's because what happened, last year, kind of, right? Because during the end of 2023, we got the Grailfern event that featured Ptolemy and also Typhon Ephemeros. And in that event, Koyan Dark specifically was an event bonus servant, and also she has event bonus damage, and she is in the event PV, and she's in the promo art even. So she's in a lot of stuff for that event, but she didn't get a buff. And then during this year's summer, we got Ordeal Call 3, who she is also in, and she's actually a pretty major character without spoiling anything in Ordeal Call 3. And she also is in the chapter PV, of course, once again. But she got a banner as well. Yes, she got no buffs, right? And then finally, this year Christmas, she's again in the event PV, again in the event bonus list, and again didn't get a buff. And if you just look at the trend last year, almost every SSR that gets heavily featured in like an event or whatever, they have a high chance of getting a buff, right? Like they've been handing out buffs last year like crazy, right? And if during those times Koyan Dark got like 3 decently heavy features and she still didn't get a buff, I think it's just completely hopeless. Like I genuinely feel like even as a meme, it's a waste of time because it's never gonna happen. It's just completely impossible. There's like no chance, right? So my cope is now placed on Summer Koyanskaya to be a more selfish DPS, and hopefully it happens at the very least next year. But of course, we have a lot of heavy contenders as well, and it's the 10th anniversary. I'm not sure it's super fair to give a character that already has 2 forms a summer version. But yeah, that's gonna be where my cope lands at this point. Like Koyan Dark buff, that shit's not gonna happen, bro.